Donald Trump isn't exactly known for his laser focus or attention to detail, but the past week has taken his, we'll call it rhetorical weaving, to a new level. The central question we're all trying to figure out tonight is when exactly Trump plans to escalate his war with Iran and start potentially targeting civilian infrastructure like bridges and power plants. Let's first listen to what he said Wednesday during his primetime address, which honestly feels like a month ago now.
We are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
Okay, so 2 to 3 weeks, but not so fast, because yesterday, 2 to 3 weeks became 48 hours when Trump posted that, quote, all hell will rain down on them. So that would be 48 hours Monday, right? Wrong, because this morning we got this historically unhinged post that we have been dissecting all day long on this network and all the others. In between the profanity, you might have missed that Trump again shifted his timeline back to Tuesday. And he must have realized that he wasn't exactly being clear, because a little while later he posted this very helpful clarification, quote, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. But missing from that post was any sense of what exactly will happen on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. A White House official finally confirmed to MS Now that that was Trump's new deadline for Iran to make a deal. We'll see how long until Trump changes it all again. Joining us now, Dean Obeidallah, host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM, and Peter Beinart, MS Now political analyst and author of the Beinart Notebook on Substack. It's great to have both of you guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. So, Peter, I totally understand if you can't keep track of the math that I just laid out there, but do you think something is actually going to happen by 8 p.m. on Tuesday?
I doubt it. I think what's striking is how weak Donald Trump looks. I mean, it's really remarkable. I actually think this is the weakest I have ever seen an American president ever look on the stage, right? I mean, America's done terrible, terrible things in many, many cases. But generally, because America had overwhelming power, it could afford to speak softly, right? And people were afraid of it. Although Donald Trump has committed war crime after war crime, it's clear the Iranians are not actually afraid. The Iranians have done something that Donald Trump should have anticipated by closing the Straits of Hormuz, that he hasn't, and he has no way of dealing with that. And so now he's like the bully who's basically saying, I'm going to beat you up tomorrow. Okay, well, the next day I'm going to beat you up, right? Everybody can see through this. This is actually, I think, a really remarkable historical moment in American history in which the Iranians are calling Donald Trump's bluff and America is looking weak.
Dean, we had some examples of lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers, being asked about whether they would be willing to fund Donald Trump's war. Can we play that?
They have more than enough resources, as far as we can tell, in order to do what is necessary. At the same period of time, Congress has to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. The cost of living in this country is out of control.
No, I'm not supporting new funding. The answer for every Democrat should be absolutely no. Absolutely no.
I think it's pretty striking that Donald Trump is asking for more money for this war, both in this supplemental as well as in the White House budget that came out on Friday, where he's asking for $1.5 trillion in funding for defense, meanwhile cutting a slew of domestic policy programs, healthcare, education, WIC, a bunch of other things. I guess my question is, what do you think they are thinking? Like, I don't understand. They're already raising gas prices.
Right.
Why would you hand this argument on a platter to Democrats that they just want to, take your money and send it away to bombs?
Because Donald Trump doesn't care. He doesn't think anything through. Look at the. By the way, on Wednesday in his speech, he literally said, we don't care about the Strait of Hormuz. His exact words were, we don't need it. And today he's like, open the effing Strait of Hormuz. Like, what has happened? And I love the praise to Allah type of thing. I wish he said praise to Obeidallah, which I would have liked a lot.
Oh, my God. Next time.
You wanted him to promote your Sirius XM show.
Thank you, Antonio. That was very nice. But look, Eamon, I mean, maybe he's actually Muslim. I mean, we never thought about it. He's had 3 wives. He doesn't drink alcohol. Who knows?
He could convert. Maybe converting is
we don't want him. We don't want him.
He sure rejected Jesus today.
What I want, the Democrats have a chance. Like I like Ro Khanna there saying definitively no money. But what Democrats should be saying is we're going to impeach and remove you. That's what they should be saying. This is not an excursion. This is a 6-week war. In his speech on Wednesday, he said it was a war because he compared it to other wars. Because you have to have patience. Look at World War II. How long that took. Look at the Iraq War. How long? We were at war for 6 weeks. It's not illegal. It's unconstitutional. If this is not grounds to impeach a president, I don't care about how many votes you have in the Senate. Your job by the Constitution is to hold the president accountable. That's why you're in Congress. High crimes and misdemeanors. This has to be. Americans are dead. Billions of dollars are spent. Take the vote. Impeach the guy. I don't care what happens in the Senate. Do your job.
So, Peter, I wanted to share with you this reporting from the Wall Street Journal that the top aides advising Trump to blast Iran's infrastructure are fair game. There's a part that reads, top aides have privately made the case to President Trump in recent days that Iran's power-generating facilities and bridges are legitimate military targets because destroying them could cripple the country's missile and nuclear programs, officials say. It's kind of disturbing to hear that being reported. I mean, if it is true that that's the kind of advice President Trump is getting, because he's not a person who is familiar with international law, and we just kind of I don't think most of our viewers understand that, if you're outside of America and you were looking at like where the Pentagon is, which is like a half a mile away from Pentagon City Mall, or you have I-95, or you have an Army recruiting center here in Times Square, the idea that, civilian infrastructure is embedded in all parts of, military infrastructure is embedded in all parts of civil society in this country. But the idea that the Pentagon would be advising the president, and we don't know if it's military officers or not, that it is fair game to go after that, just is frightening and terrifying that our country would be embarking on this level of international violations of law.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to hear Democrats answer is, do you think Donald Trump is committing war crimes? I mean, because he's not shy about it, right?
Right.
He screams that he's committing war crimes. And if he is committing war crimes, do you think he should be prosecuted at the International Criminal Court?
Yeah.
Like we supported the prosecution of Vladimir Putin. Of course he should. Right? These are war crimes. Everybody associated with targeting civilian infrastructure in a war that was illegal against a country that posed no imminent threat, no threat at all, actually, to the United States. Democrats should take the position that those people should be prosecuted at the International Criminal Court as war criminals, because they are war criminals.
Hey, a quick thing. 2 Russian generals have been charged by the International Criminal Court for targeting civilian structures in Ukraine and for causing huge civilian hardship. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's the exact same thing.
I think that's not a very politically palatable idea, though, in terms of the ICC and the American public and the concept of an American president and, sending them off, even though I agree, war crimes. And I do think that there should be something politically to move the public, because this can't be happening. We can't condone this.
Yeah,
How much of this, though, do you think is a repudiation of the World War II post-war generation and the way they governed and the way that we had Nuremberg, we had accountability, we set up an international system that benefited our economy and rule of law pretty much around the globe? Fits and starts. There were problems. I'm not saying it's perfect, but Trump seems like he came to age just detesting what had come, the change that was wrought out of World War II.
Before Donald Trump, the United States was profoundly hypocritical, right? Presidents said one thing, and then they often did something else, right? It was only within a decade after Nuremberg, right? We overthrew a democratically elected leader in Iran, right? And laid the groundwork for exactly where we are here. We also were the only country that used atomic weapons during World War II. But there was something about the hypocrisy, right? At least stating you believed in certain principles that created a space for Americans to actually try to hold you to account. To say, you know what, you claim to believe in this, and we're going to try to push you. This has always been the story of America, we haven't lived up to our ideals, but the ideals have given something to aim for. What's different about Donald Trump is the trashing of any notion that there's any moral standard for the United States whatsoever.
The Pope, actually, part of his message in the lead up to and on Easter morning, was sort of not very subtly about that, sort of the way in which people are being like inured and lulled into thinking that this is normal, and reminding people that you actually can call them back to a higher standard of some kind.
And one thing, I mean, it's not like I'm saying the International Criminal Court's going to charge Donald Trump or our generals. There's not jurisdiction over them, so I don't see that happening. But Donald Trump's not even held accountable for his domestic crimes, let alone international crimes. The guy attempted a coup and incited a terrorist attack. He was charged with felonies for trying to disenfranchise Americans of their votes. And this Supreme Court saved him from answering in a court of law. So I don't think he's going to be held accountable. I think Democrats, though, can talk about it.
Should run on a platform of holding him accountable.
Hold him accountable. The idea, what does America stand for? Are we going to allow him to be the Putin of this hemisphere?
I wonder if
young children who are in concentration camps suffering around the country and not getting adequate medical care.
Right. And it's also, I don't think it's the role of journalists to try to figure out what the Democratic Party's right political strategy is. Right. We should ask people to answer questions about truth and morality based on one single standard. And then Democrats are the politicians. Right. But I think that the United States should make it clear that, you know, it's very clear to almost everyone around the world, right, that the things the United States are doing now, with our support for what happened in Gaza and now in Iran, are as bad as some of the worst things that other countries have done in recent decades. And I think we should be willing to say that.